Right, so I'm recording a video of this sculpture study time-lapse. I'm just going to talk about my digital painting process. So, found this sculpture picture off Pinterest and did this on Clip Studio Paint. It took about 4 hours. So, let's just start off. So you can see at the top left here, I've sort of made an abstraction of the lighting situation. Basically, I've made some sphere shape and I've cast light on it as it would fall on the sculpture, and I've plotted the colours of the true shadow and also the reflected light. So that's just a handy guide for any of the colour situations that might happen on the sculpture. So to start off with, I've gone with a grey background just to fill everything in. There's a drawing in here. The drawing's not super detailed, it is quite rough, and I think that will have an effect on the shape design of the painting, because the shape design is only going to be as good as what you draw. So that's an improvement for next time. So I've started by blocking in sort of the mid-tone of the sculpture, and I've chosen some sort of desaturated version of the mid-tone on this abstraction here. I'm just blocking all of that in. And you notice I've not used any sort of fill tool to do this, which you could do. You could make a selection of the whole drawing and use a fill tool, but I'm going for some sort of painterly effect, so I've just decided to go with brush strokes for everything, which you'll see in the next step as well. So now you can see I'm starting to block in the background, which is, a dark sort of studio background. And again, you could use the fill tool to just block in all just one uniform dark colour, but with this method you get a more painterly feel to every single thing in the picture. And you're also working on sort of the edge play between the sculpture and the background, which makes for more of a sort of an appealing effect. Very roughly blocked in. So at this point you have the object, you have the floor, you have the background all blocked in. Next is to do the lighting. And you'll see I start to block in that lighting here. So I've got sort of a shadow colour from here, and I've started blocking in the shadows on the sculpture. So at this point you have the mid-tones acting as the lights, and you have just a binary situation, which is lights and shadow. You're not thinking about sort of making it look 3D, you're sort of thinking of the graphic design of the shadow shapes. And if it's good design, then it should already look 3D just by nature of the shadow shapes. And you can see sort of the shapes on the head are not very unique or well designed. They're just sort of blobs. You could have done better there. Very rough shadow shapes. I mean, I'm using a painterly brush, which is not giving you nice, sharp and precise strokes. I guess it's okay. It gives more of an impression rather than sort of an immediate description. So now the shadows have been blocked in. Now I'm starting to add light. So you have, at this point, you have three sort of vehicles to describe the lighting situation: light, mid-tone, and shadow. So with the light, you're saying light is hitting this area, and you're using that to describe the form in the light, and then the shadows describing the form that's not being hit by the light. So the mid-tone in this situation should be used to describe how the form turns away from the light, but in this situation it's not doing that. It's sort of, in comparison to the light quality, it looks like a grey. And if you look at the abstraction here, it's there's no real grey on that. It's sort of the mid-tone should have been better selected. But you can see we are starting to get a light effect. It does look like light is shining on this. And you could say this method is time consuming and like, what's the point? Which is true. I mean, it's digital art and he's trying to do a trick by making it look painterly. You know, why don't you just make a painting? Like here I'm trying to show the strokes by only going in a way that obeys the form. So see, if you see the cylinder of the leg, I'm only going down the cylinder or wrapping around the cylinder, which I'm hoping, you know, has some effect on describing the form. But with it being digital, I mean, you don't get that sort of depth in that you would get in a painting. So now I'm starting to do the lighting on the drapery, which is just not, it's not well designed, the shapes. I mean, could do better there, but it is serving a good impression of drapery, I think. So at the moment we've got sort of a low resolution sculpture basically. I mean, there's no high definition in this. The hair is blobs, the drapery is kind of blobbish. But I guess it's okay for a 4-hour effort. I mean, 4 or 5 hour effort. But if you want it to look better, you have to spend more time, I guess. So one thing about digital is you can just warp things and move things around, which you wouldn't be able to do in a real painting. Just doing the reflected lights right now. So I'm guessing this is supposed to be light bouncing off the sculpture, off the floor, back into the sculpture in the shadow areas. But it could be clearer. I mean, also I don't like the edge play on the Terminators rolling into the lights. Look way too sharp. But yeah, that's it. I mean, it's a way to make digital art look painterly, which is you just use a traditional process as you would use, you know, in real life, but you use it in digital. You block in midtones, you add shadows meeting into the midtones, and you had lights rolling into the midtones. So but there is a question about why would you use this when you can use sort of digital shortcuts like fill tools and such. I mean, the nature of sort of opacity on this means all that sort of brushwork you did can be covered up by what you add later, which might not be the case in traditional. Maybe you can see through the shadows and stuff like that. You can see through things more easily. In a real life painting, maybe opaqueness and transparency is more apparent. But yeah, that's all. That's the final effort. Nothing more to say really. Could use more hard edges. I mean, the most razor sharp edge in this is the edge between the background and sort of the hip. It makes a really nice silhouette. I mean, that's one of the only situations where I've designed a line. Look at that continuous line going from the shoulder or even the head all the way down to the leg, which is very like something Ingres would do, the famous French painter. So overall it's a good effort, but you could do better. Where could we go from here? I mean, I like this painterly style, but this style does not lend to concept art. With concept art you need to be very clear. And with illustration, I mean, you need to be very clear there. Sort of sequential illustration like you would do in a comic. This is not good because it's not quick and it's not clear. It is more artsy. It's a style I like, but and it's sort of like a wishful thing, like you wish you could do this in real life, so you just do it digitally. Which, you know, digitally does not have crazy value this way. I mean, people work digitally to speed up their process, but this is sort of taking the arduousness of what you have to do traditionally and putting it into the digital. You might as well just do traditional, like just spend the effort and time making a traditional artwork, which is automatically painterly, and it also has uses in real life where you can sort of have a 3D thing in front of you instead of something that's basically just a JPEG. It's just a trick. Any brushwork or no opacity and sort of opaqueness in this is just a trick. But the one thing is, it does look cool and it's fun to do, so there's that. And yeah, that's all. Thanks for watching.